It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Now, my favorite part of the show, and I guess what's in Tim's background. And I'm going to say, Tim, this week you have got copy of Jake Tapper's new book, which nobody has read yet, and inside that is Epstein's list, and they're both big disappointments because we know what they're revealing from Epstein is absolutely nothing, and everybody's upset about that. And you know that Jake Tapper isn't going to take the fall for the media's part in the cover-up of Joe Biden's senescence. Am I right about all that, Tim? Is that what
you know what? Before we do the reveal here, I want to say something about that Jake Tapper book. That it kind of reminds me of OJ's "If I Had Done It" book, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It should be from the same publisher.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be chasing down Jake Tapper in a Bronco if he doesn't admit this. So, what have you got? What have you got for us, Tim?
Well, Bruce, I think you've totally forgot what's happening this weekend. It's the Oscars.
Ah. There we go. Yes. Oh, there we go. We've got Oscar in your background, Oscar the Grouch, Oscar Madison. Who's at Oscar Mayer and Oscar Homolka? Who's on the left there? That's
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde, who I liberally quote. Anybody who doesn't believe laugh at such and such, just fill in the blank. It's like Mad Libs has a heart of stone.
And anyone that doesn't recognize my photo 100 years later probably shouldn't be using my damn
but at least I know who Oscar Wilde is. At least I know who he is. And I believe the Oscars hosted by Conan O'Brien, which of course he gets the gig when nobody even watches the Oscars anymore or even cares, has seen any of the movies. And there's so much controversy because the early touted one has a transgender in it, but then the transgender turns out to be a little too anti-woke. And what is it, like Emilio Perez or something like that, or Oscar Perez, I think. Or yeah. Are you going to watch the Oscars?
I think about halfway through, Jay Leno's going to come in and go, I can take it from here.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, I hear that, speaking of Tapper's book, I thought the age of collective unconscious conspiracies had ended with the outing of Harvey Weinstein. But how could you actually get away with covering something up nowadays? There's too many leaks, there's too many outlets, and yet apparently that's what happened over the last 2 years, 4 years.
I think there's a small percentage of America that did not know, that actually fell for the cover up. I think at least 60% of Americans knew the guy was not capable of controlling anything, much less his bladder.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Stepped all over your bladder there, and that kind of hurts. But even during the debate, I'm naive. Remember when I was I'm still an attorney, but I would take depositions. I knew somebody was lying, either my client or the other side, but I'd always try and reconcile the two. Oh, maybe that's just his perspective or whatever. So when I saw Biden, I figured, okay, he's stumbling over some, answers and doesn't sound too good. And, at least he hasn't said dog-faced pony soldier. So I was cutting him a lot of
or challenged him to a push-up contest.
And then I think he kicked in the second half. I mean, it was almost like a draw in the second half. So it's almost like, and then, you get Jill. She's still complaining that Nancy Pelosi aced them out. So I think they're going to go to their deaths saying that, no, he still had it. He was just a little slow and just, could never participate in anything.
How could they do it? They threw him off. They threw him off the ticket. They knew. And after the debate, they said everybody knows.
I think they're cynical. No, I think they were cynical. I think they basically thought, the politicians certainly. It wasn't that they necessarily believed that he was senile. It's that they knew the public believed that. And so they were going to bounce him off the ticket and had an excuse. But I don't know that they, you know what? I do think, I'm going to argue with myself right now. And I'd like to see me against me in a debate, and half of me would be senile. But and I call myself a corn pop. But
well, I remember in advance of the debate, I predicted that he was put on, that he was allowed to debate Trump because they wanted him off. Is that they suspected what happened would have happened. That it was
here's the problem. You know,
they were saying they couldn't get Dr. Jill to get him to talk him into resigning because Dr. Jill she kind of liked the perks.
Tim, but you know, you're the boy who cried Bruce Wolf. You've got the tinfoil hat. Nobody believes anything you say.
Yeah,
so
until after it happens.
Right. Okay. All right. So here we go. By the way, are you going to buy one of those $5 million gold cards to get into the United States?
I think I've long said that at age 18, everybody should be taken out of the country and have to figure out how to get back. That we'd have a much stronger country that way. We'd have at least better swimmers and rock climbers.
Right. Back in the day, I remember WFB, William F. Buckley, my hero, wanted it to be voluntary because he did have a libertarian streak, not a totalitarian one. And he wanted it to be just a cultural thing where and this was before everybody took a gap year. This was, you take the year off. You've been going to school for 12 years and you work in the Peace Corps or
sure.
whatever. That would have been the thing to do. So it's not a bad idea to not kick everybody out of the country and charge them $5 million to get back in. Here's the thing. Here's my slogan. It's a gold card. Let's call it Express to America. Don't leave home without it. Hey, think about not bad. Now, I do have to ask you something. Trump, because
don't call it home without it.
All right. So here's the thing about Trump. And you know, you can never hold him to anything that he says. I think just today when we're taping this, he's quoted as saying, "Did I say Zelensky was a dictator? Oops." So I don't even know.
I'm gonna actually say that what he said, which we all know was crap, was simply a negotiation tactic.
Always possible.
Because from what I've heard is that he came up with this idea of selling us the mineral rights to your country.
Yeah.
And that's better than NATO, because you're going to have Shell, De Beers, all fighting to protect you from Russia at that point.
I know.
Sell us your mineral rights. And they went to Zelensky, and Zelensky said, that's an interesting idea. I got to run it by the legislature. And then went in front of the cameras and said, Americans have no intention of negotiating.
Okay. Well,
that's why he said that stuff.
Yeah. Scott Lincecum, that he's a member in the Cato Institute, and it's against tariffs and everything. He was wondering if, we get these Ukraine minerals, if that's going to hurt our trade deficit. so Trump could be whipsawed on that one. But back to the gold card for a second. So I don't know whether to believe Trump even for simple math, because he said that if you get 10 million people at $5 million a pop, that's $50 trillion. And that could wipe out like our debt forever. The problem is I need Jethro Bodine to help me with the ciphering and the aughts is 10 million times 5 million 50 trillion. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Oh, by the way, Chris is just
after 1,000 years it would be.
Yeah, right. Chris interjected that Zelensky's a dictator because he shut down elections and all that. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln threw editors in jail. So I'm sure we should take him off Mount Rushmore while we're at it. But no, yeah. So I don't even know if the math is right on that for the. And somebody mentioned, well, there aren't 10 million people who have $5 million to do that in the world. There are like 2 million people in the world who have that kind of money, and all of them would have to do it. Yeah, I mean, there's not that many people who have $5 million at hand. Zelensky, of course, has it because he's a corrupt dictator. Sure, I get that, but anyway, so good math, good conspiracy theories coming true. Tim, appreciate that. All right, let's go to real quickly here. Megyn Kelly. Commenting, Joy Reid got fired by MSNBC, and
finally
Chris made this our lead story, which I've delayed. I mean, the thing is that nobody's what. I mean, we're yelling and screaming about somebody that nobody actually watched. Okay, I mean, it's like people getting upset about our podcast. So, yeah, Megan Kelly says, remember when Joy Reid laughingly mocked white women tears as pathetic and offensive to her? Well, who's crying now, Joy? Good riddance to the absolute worst person on television, and shame on NBC for letting it go on this long. And I think the only thing worse that NBC ever did was hire you, Megan Kelly, $30 million down the drain over 3 years. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Well, at least Megan Kelly was doing more than 1 hour a week, which is what they're paying Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow, which they fired her staff. But what does she need a staff for? She's on for an hour. I mean, we're on longer than that, with the breaks.
Come on, we're paying you almost a $500,000 per hour. There, Rachel. Well, you can put it. Hey, Rachel, why don't you give us 5 things you did last week?
Exactly. Of course, the problem with that thing. I mean, I love another thing. I mean, Trump's own cabinet members are telling people not to fill that out. I guess we're exempt from the 5 things we did last week.
Joy Reid. Joy Reid. I don't think anybody would even know who Joy Reid was if conservatives didn't quote her.
Oh, totally.
Gratuitously on their shows.
That's
the only time I've ever heard of Joy Reid is when you got to hear what she said last week.
Right. She was there to be a punching bag for conservatives. That's the only reason. It was definitely a symbiotic relationship between the two. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. So, we should go to this ABC7 Chicago tweet. I just like to say this for the alliteration. The Father Fligger flag flap flummoxes me. Yeah. What do you think of that, Tim Slagle? Maybe put the flag upside down.
I don't think you can have alliteration when one of those words starts with a P.
I guess not. How about Father Fligger for Pope? It kind of fits with the current one. I don't want to put the Pope into a grave yet. Although I've been seeing tweets, and of course I never know what to believe on Twitter. That I've actually seen from 2 places, and they didn't look like phony sites, but they gotta be, that he'd already died. And they weren't going to announce it to Monday. Now, I mean, even Jake Tapper couldn't cover up something like that for a weekend.
Well, who knows what goes on inside the Vatican? I mean, really.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's so a friend of mine who watched the Conclave, the movie The Conclave, pointed out that an interesting fact is that
don't give away the end. I know the end. It's like the crying game, right?
That's what I heard. Is that all the popes, or all the cardinals have already picked out their pope name. It's as soon as they're made cardinal, they're 1 step away. So every single one of them has a pope name.
So they've got to have it. I mean, is that like?
No, they don't have to have it. They just do. They just that's their arrogance. It
seems a little eager. Seems a little. Hey, if
I'm going to be Pope, I'm going to be Pope Sickle.
There you go. With an encyclical. You're Pope Sickle with an encyclical. Look, I know all about this stuff because I watched the Thornbirds in the early 80s with Father DeBrickassar and with Maggie. And I still remember the music to it. So I'm bum 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 bum. That's pretty good from 45 years ago.
I watched the HBO series, The New Pope with Jude Law. Was very, very, very interesting.
Wait, is he dressed up in Joker make? Oh no, that's not Jude Law. That's Heath Ledger, right? I just get all these confused. So, all right, let's move on to. Did you see this Scarlett Johansson? And I keep thinking it's Scarlett Johansson, then I'm disappointed. But she had a tweet about them making condoms available in grade schools. I mean, like from K through 12, condoms available.
Sure.
And it reminded me. Let's take a look at this tweet right here. We got it. Thank you so much, Chris. I know, because I know you're busy bashing Zelensky. I don't have time for this, but the Condoms for Kiddies bill, which installs condoms vending machines in preschool to high schools, is set to be passed in Maryland. Democrats are pushing to require all K-12 schools to implement the same-sex ed curriculum endorsed by Wisconsin State Superintendent Jill Underly. Wisconsin, of course, is the state, I believe, where they have inseminated persons. That's what.
That was the new. That was the new term. Which.
So I'm just thinking, you know, when I see something like that, them making condoms available for kids that young, it reminds me so much of the bit in Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, when John Cleese is a professor at a prep school, and he's trying to teach these bored prep students various sex positions. And he's got like his partner or wife naked there, and the kids are just like so bored and looking out the window at somebody, you know, in soccer practice. And that's what it's going to become. So, and then there won't be any inseminated persons because nobody will be able to.
You think there are going to be 0 condoms in the machine and water balloons in class? I guarantee that.
And they're just going to sell them to Hamas to use for IEDs.
And when they run out of water balloons, they'll start dipping tampons in the toilets. It's these people who come up with these ideas, they don't understand the mind of a 10-year-old boy.
No, really, absolutely. So here's a tweet from NBC 10 Boston. I guess I just was attracted to NBC 10 Boston, and it's about, you know, how lax we're becoming with the prisons and with criminals. It's going against the current grain. A man accused of hacking someone to death with an axe and eating part of the victim's brain and an eyeball has been granted conditional release after careful review of his clinical progress, officials in Connecticut say. And I was wondering, when did Michael Dukakis become the governor of Connecticut? So why would they do that? I mean, obviously they have a heart. He hasn't eaten the heart yet, but what is going on there, Tim Slagle?
My guess is that his psychiatrist told him that Trump is delicious. I don't know. It's crazy. Connecticut is where they just found. I don't know if you saw this. They just arrested 5 people for stuffing ballot boxes.
Oh, spaghetti-o. What, are we going to relitigate the 2020 election right now?
No, I just don't want to hear. I don't want Tom Owens to hear the rest of the show.
Yeah, Tom Owens, our faithful listener.
He's out now.
Yeah. Where was I? I did hear something that might trigger even more discussion on the 2020 election, because, you know, I never can get enough of that. Was it that ballot box story? Was there something else? Oh, my memory will be jogged.
I didn't see anywhere in the show notes. Are we even going to talk about the new deputy FBI director?
Well, let us talk about Dan Bongino, who, of course, it is in the show notes, but that's okay. We could skip around. Okay. Dan Bongino, who, you know, he is the top now is the top a government official, even though he wasn't at the time, to have trolled me on Twitter. Oh yeah! Wow! No, I've risen in the ranks. Bongino did that to me. Very sensitive guy, and I think I had tweeted something like, you know, I voted for Trump too, but I don't have to suck as but bleep. And he got his whole posse on me, and you know, on Twitter when you get notifications, it's just like 20 plus notices, because it doesn't go any higher than that, and then but it doesn't end, and it keeps going and going and going, and
that never happened to me.
That happened to me once, and then he got me a second time. It wasn't as big a bang, but you know, it's just it's quite a thrill to see him get up there right now.
Well, I would almost put him at, except Cash might be ahead of him and Trump might be ahead of him, as the highest ranking election denier.
Well, sure, yeah, I agree on that. Now, here's the thing: and so Bongino's gotten me twice, and so that's kind of like a mark of distinction that you get somebody on Twitter who's high up in government. But I mean, Trump would be the best if he just. But now you too can be trolled by J.D. Vance. He's been doing it lately. You see, he's been answering people on Twitter. So that's my goal is to. And I'm just wondering, do I still have time now that I've gotten to Bongino and I'm hungry for a little bit more? Do I still have time to
move up the ranks,
antagonize the Pope? Yeah, I just don't have time to antagonize the Pope.
I don't think the Pope.
But,
I don't think the Pope is on Twitter.
Here's a question.
I know a lot of the Cardinals are on Grindr, but what was the question?
Right. Again, don't give away the end of conclave. Okay. So, all right. Here's the thing. That, and we'll maybe talk about it later, that Dan Crenshaw, the former congressman with the eye patch guy, former serviceman, challenged Tucker Carlson to a fight. But maybe the undercard to that. I'm wondering if a drunk Pete Hegseth could beat up Bongino. What do you think? How would you gauge that fight?
No. Bongino all the way.
He's so big and strong.
Well, not just that. He was a New York City cop. I mean, he's. Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know that. Well, Hegseth was trained pretty well too, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm just maybe a new Marvel.
I think Bongino knows how to fight dirty. I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking a new Marvel franchise. The election deniers or something like that. Captain
the deniers.
America or Captain Mexico, whatever you want to call him. So, all right, let's. Oh, did you see? Again, I thought this might be a fake. It's this Neoberg one, Chris. The Israeli jets with their flyover of Nasrallah's funeral in a big stadium. It was just hard for me to. I mean, I think, oh, come on, they're making this up, but it did happen, didn't it? Am I right about that? Did you see this at all?
I didn't see this.
There was Chris. I mean, I don't want to, give credence to something that may have been a fake, but I think it did happen. The Israeli jets flew over this funeral, and at least it looks like there's video, but I mean, you can always doctor video like that. It's amazing when I'm doubting the actual real stuff. But anyway, if that was true, if that really happened, I mean, it really makes the Super Bowl flyover.
That looks pretty real. You see the guys there on top of the truck. They look a little nervous.
Yeah, no,
they don't look artificial intelligence generated nervous. No, that looks authentic.
That's genuine. So I was just thinking that makes the actual Super Bowl flyover look like a prop job with a streamer for Blue Chew. I once actually got to. You ever see those streamers that the prop jobs that fly over like Soldier Field or other big events, and they advertise things. We once, when I was working for the Loop, I think it was Kevin Matthews had it. Somebody offered us if we came whatever slogan we could come up with, the best one, he'd fly that over the Bears Packers game at the time. And I came up, I got the winning one, and it was Who Cut the Favre. And anyway, I'll let you digest that one for a second. But they did fly that over Soldier Field. Brett Favre was playing there. Who cut the Favre? Anyway, so there you go. Oh, let's look at this. We'll get to it in the next segment. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And James Bond has changed hands. Are you thrilled about this? You know who isn't, Chris? He didn't even want us to do this. Do you care about it, Tim? If it's 2 against 1, we won't do it, even though as a disciple of James Bond, I could take on all of you.
I've always liked James Bond, but it's
right, there we go. So Chris is the odd job out. Yeah.
It's been 60 years since its glory days, so it's kind of.
That's true. I mean, I kind of like the wanted to say Roger Mudd. You know, the Roger one. I like that. You know, I didn't like Woody Allen. I didn't like Woody Allen as James Bond one time. You know, but so the story about James Bond is that Mrs. Broccoli, Cubby's wife, and by the way, when Cubby Broccoli died, and he was the honcho behind James Bond for the movies. When he died, Channel 5, my former employer, this was before I joined them, showed a picture of broccoli, a stalk of broccoli, which wasn't really the worst thing in the world because the broccoli family, you know that broccoli is a hybrid vegetable. It doesn't occur naturally in nature. And it was the broccoli family.
It seems unnatural.
Yeah, right. Who wants to eat that stuff? So the broccoli family was actually the one that Cubby Broccoli was belonging to. Now I thought that
it's actually a trademark. It's actually a family name. It's actually like Kodak.
There's actually a family name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now Chris says that to be true to modern day England, 007 should be a Muslim woman. Okay, we're getting to that. Hold on a second. But well, what's the most popular name?
The name is Bond.
Right now?
Mohammed Bond.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I thought that the obituary, if it was going to be Cubby Broccoli, they should have shown Ernie Banks with a stalk of broccoli. Maybe
sure.
Pretending that it was a baseball bat. But so anyway, there's questions about how it'll be changed, how the franchise will be changed, and of course, Chris giving worst case scenario right there. We put up this tweet from Alex 2 talking about the casting for it. Who should be the next James Bond, and do you have anybody that you would like to see as the next James Bond? I thought Daniel Craig was pretty good.
I'm guessing Elliot Page.
Who was? Oh yeah, took me a while. I remember seeing Ellen Page. It was very, very good. Anyway,
I can't imagine that they're not going to Hamilton cast it. I just in 2025, there's no way they're not going to Hamilton cast James Bond.
Right. I mean, there's no question about that. That they're going to go flip flop. It's going to be like Wicked or whatever. I mean, that's the way you do these things. But if maybe they can go a step further, I'm thinking Daryl Hammond, formerly of SNL. Do you ever watch Jeopardy? When they'd have Will Ferrell host Jeopardy, and this Gerald Hammond played Sean Connery, and would say, something to the effect of, "I'm sleeping with your wife, Trebek," and
mother.
Yeah, I like Daryl Hammond. Now, here's the thing, and we have this tweet from Clandestine. Donald Trump apparently wants to visit Fort Knox with
Can you blame him?
Musk. Huh?
Can you blame him?
Well, they want to make sure that it's real. And this is right after Amazon took over the Bond franchise. I didn't realize the turnaround for Goldfinger for a remake would be this fast. I know Trump has been a TV star, but this is an odd job for 0047 to be sure. But I can see the nerve gas going over Fort Knox, and let Elon break in and see if he can find any of those $5 million coins that have come.
I've got a lot of my tinfoil friends are saying you better make sure you bring a drill, because make sure that's not gold-plated tungsten, which I guess has the same density as gold. So,
so David Bonson's this economist who I trust and I really like a lot. He's a very capitalist oriented, and he's been on the side of this whole you got to stop letting people work from home thing. Somebody came up with the and of course that's part and parcel of the Elon and Musk plan that you gotta come back to the office, and all these federal workers are AWOL and they never do anything. And that all may be true, but you have to understand my position. In my real job, I work from my house, and first of all, I should be exempt, okay, because I'm old and creaky, and I shouldn't have, and I'm not on the make either. But
shouldn't be driving at your age.
Oh no, not at all. No, I'm a hazard.
It's a hazard if you're on the road.
I'm Mr. McGo, Rohog. Yeah. So But he said that somebody came up with the research saying, oh, no, au contraire, the research is showing that people are more efficient at home. And Bonson says, no, the research actually shows they're more efficient in the office. Now, I would like to, first of all, he got this from the University of Chicago Booth Economy School. And I mean, he says, besides the overwhelming empirical research that has been created and the ultimate test of the market itself, whereby companies have deemed for themselves the results, there's also our own most basic of observations from those actually in the white collar world. In all these three cases, the verdict has been unanimous. Look, first of all, the University of Chicago Booth is biased. It's conservative. They're also the one that finds that poor people won't eat healthy food, even if you make it available to them. I'm not saying this stuff isn't true. I'm just saying they're biased in favor
that healthy
of
food thing. We kind of proved that during the Obama administration, right, didn't we? That healthy food was provided, and what happened was the trash became obese.
Did you see? And I hate to make me come back to this point, but did you see there was a tweet apparently? Who was it? RFK. RFK doesn't want to allow people to be able to use their food stamps,
their SNAP benefits,
on junk food. And I'm thinking, if you want rioting that is worse than anything we saw with George Floyd, I mean, come on. It's good. You take, and then if you're going to take away poor people's junk food, then, I mean, Trump's got to show us the way. He's got to lose about 30, 40 pounds himself and stop eating that stuff. I mean, it's just, I mean, I hate to sound like a socialist right there.
I have a friend that suggested the exact opposite, is that why can't you use your SNAP card at McDonald's? Because that's kind of it's kind of unfair, because you want people on the benefits to work as much as possible. And that's what McDonald's is there for working parents that don't have time to prepare a meal that the kids will eat. So that it's actually discriminatory by not letting them use their SNAP card at McDonald's. I'm an old school conservative, though. I think you should only be able to use it for rice and beans. 70% of the world, 70% of the world, that's all they eat. So.
I remember William F. Buckley years ago. He came up with a book called Four Reforms, and one of the things about welfare was just provide a certain amount of bulgur wheat to the poor. And I just I gagged when I heard that, but read that. But yeah, I get it. I just don't think you don't like
you don't like tabbouleh? Who doesn't like tabbouleh?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Look, I mean, look at the consequences. The NFL would have to drop advertising for beer, pizza, chips. The back of the helmets would say "End gluttony." I mean, I just don't. It's a little too sweeping as far as I'm concerned. So, but back to Bonson though, even though it's a biased study, and even though it's probably true. They're saying
that some of these government employees that were working from home actually were collecting 2 full-time paychecks.
Oh, yeah. No, that's government. That's not the private sector. And isn't it a tenet of conservatism that we don't go for one size fits all? We believe in subsidiarity. So it sounds like a generally a good policy, but not for everybody, including yours truly. And so things should be tailored individually. That's the whole point of conservatism, is it not?
Yeah,
Mr. Slagle, don't you agree with that? No,
I didn't happen to see it. And speaking of Amazon, we were earlier. Did it make it into the show notes about the Bezos' new policy on the editorial page?
It did not, but you're free to bring it in at any time, including right now.
It's fascinating. From now on, it's going to be free market, only opinions from free market, and I forget the other one.
Well, it's libertarianism. It's individual rights. Yeah. And of course, all the totalitarians stomped out of there because including the editorial page editor, they stomped out of there. And the guy's losing $100 million a year on this. So he kind of has a right to say what he wants to say and hire who he wants. Especially, you know what? Here's the thing. nobody reads editorial pages. The real action is in the news pages. That's where you can sneak in the bias.
Sure.
And it's not overwhelming. It's not overt. And it really does its work. But it
reminds me of, it was in Citizen Kane, I think, as he sent a telegram. I am buying a newspaper. Stop. Think it might be fun. Stop.
Exactly.
That's what Bezos has always reminded me of.
Exactly. Stop. Yeah. No question about it. All right. Well, I'm going to write an op-ed when we take a break right now and submit it to WaPo. And one of these days, I'll reprise the story of when the Washington Post went after yours truly.
Oh,
worse than Dan Bongino, but that's a little tease there. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Well, Tim,
I got to hear the Washington Post story.
Okay, so here's what happened. It's a long story, but it's several years ago. The White Sox were playing in Baltimore, and it was a road game. I think it was during COVID. There weren't many people there, and it just dawned on me that it had been like a year earlier that the whole Freddie Gray thing happened. You remember the Freddie Gray thing in Baltimore, the guy who got allegedly killed by the cops in the back of a van, and then it turned out that
I remember seeing that on The Wire. I saw that on The Wire.
Yeah,
that was actually an episode of The Wire, wasn't it?
Oh, that actually an episode of The Wire before it actually happened. So
really?
They had riots, so they had no fans apparently. Anyway, I don't know which came first, The Wire or that. But anyway, so I innocently tweeted, has everybody forgotten about this? I think it was like a year later, and I said, the White Sox are in their Freddie Gray road uniforms. Well, okay, you just reacted. Wow. Okay. Well, it got picked up. I mean, I just okay, and I wasn't even making a judgment on who's right or wrong. The cases hadn't been adjudicated yet or anything. And well, I mean, I got it. Yeah. Oh, look, he found it right now. And it's. Earlier that day, in fact, I had even tweeted, because the NFL draft was being held in Chicago, I think for the second time. And I had tweeted, why aren't these leftists on the Score radio station, why aren't they calling for a boycott of the NFL draft in Chicago? Because this was around the Laquan McDonald time. Okay. And nobody was calling for a boycott. I even, at some point in the future from then, I even asked Jesse Jackson what happened. He said, well, you can't boycott everything. Okay, fine. Good answer. Good answer, Reverend Jackson. So, but anyway, so I tweeted that. I actually just thought it was a pun, but apparently, okay. Well, I mean, I talked about the Bongino thing, what happened. And all, I mean, this went over for a whole weekend. And I actually kind of got scared because I'm not, it wasn't like there were any legitimate threats to my life, but it just kept coming and coming. And they had put it on the front page of their, not print. It was front page of whatever online thing they had, but it was something like unemployed sportscaster makes horrible joke. So anyway,
do you still use that moniker? The Weekly Wrap with unemployed sportscaster Bruce Wolf.
Right. It's a winner.
Struggling comedian Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm the kind of guy who'd likes to make the jokes, but I don't really want to hurt anybody. Oh, it must have hurt some people's feelings here. Even though I will tell you that ultimately no cop ever, went to jail for this or anything, but still, the guy died and all that. And the Tribune did a story on me, the Chicago Tribune, about, what happened to me.
Well, the Washington Post leads the news.
Yeah, right. It said Chicago broadcaster blasted for tasteless Freddie Gray tweet. And it was written by Tim Bannon of the Tribune. Okay, so this Bannon interviews me, okay? and he asks for a quote from me about what happened, and I gave him a quote trying to explain what had happened, and looking, and I didn't mean to hurt anybody, blah blah blah. And I asked him to read back the quote to me, and he hadn't taken it down. So then I had only taken a fragment of it down, and so look, I'll email you the quote so that just to show you how fair they were treating me. Meantime, he quotes Rob Feeder, the
unemployed media critic.
Well, at that point he was somewhere. And Tony Fitzpatrick, my former partner on the radio for a short time. Oh, Wolf, he's the worst. Okay, thank you. Nobody was too biased against me. But anyway, and I actually solicited the support of Dan Proft on this because he knows about PR and all that, and he helped me craft an answer to I'm basically like a Jackie Mason type. It's like Proft anti-Semitic, lumping me in with Jackie Mason. All you Jews are like, no, he was actually helpful, but that's what happened with the Washington Post, and of course this is when they're. But now I don't know. Now I think they'd give me an op-ed, where it's personal, because they were trying to muzzle my free speech. I was just
making a really bad pun. That's all it was a really bad pun.
You don't think it was a good pun? I mean, but no, it's just to me it was like everybody had forgotten about this, and apparently not, because when I said that, it was like, oh no, now we remember. So there you go. All right. I hope I haven't resurrected that. It's too late. Statute of limitations is run. I'm clear.
I didn't even remember who Freddie Gray was.
Exactly. So. Well, there we go. So meantime, there was speaking of Chicago unemployed sportscasters. So did you see this NHL series, the big game between Canada and the United States last week for the championship of this ersatz thing that they had instead of the All-Star
we were talking
game.
about it. I heard that Canada cleaned our clock.
Big game. It was like, that night it was like the biggest hockey game that's been watched in like 30 years, because it was U.S. versus Canada, and all the
Canada
prelim. Winning it in an overtime.
All the prelim about the fights and the booing the anthem, and I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, there had been a fight and during the national.
It was like WrestleMania. It was like WrestleMania.
Yeah. Okay, so I've asked people to send me Mark Giangreco, former Channel 7 sportscaster, the best sportscaster in local yokel news history, no question about it, except for me. But anyway, so this guy Tom says maybe Giangreco should move to Canada, because Giangreco had tweeted, yeah, the game was so great that it did, Canada won in overtime, that it did overshadow Trump's absurd political BS. I just couldn't resist this. And then he had called it Canada, the 51st state beating the 11th Providence 3-2 in overtime, which that's kind of cute. But he says certainly better taste than a Freddie Gray reference. But he said it overshadowed Trump's absurd political BS. Well, you got to give Trump an assist for this. I mean, he added to the luster of the whole thing by doing the whole 51st state thing that generated the booing during the anthem. I don't think, this game, achieves the magnificence that it does without the bitterness that Trump engendered. Sure. So, you're a little bit wrong on that, Mark. Also, you should have had a comma after the word defense in your second tweet there. I watched this. So I watched 8 minutes and 18 seconds of hockey this year, and that was the overtime of that game, and it was great. And I cannot wait to watch hockey again next year in overtime. And I actually saw the puck go in the net for the overtime winner on the first replay, not when it actually scored. Well, I can't even see it anymore.
They're using puck enhance, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, I think
they used to have this thing, Peter Puck, and they'd have like what they have now for golf, where they have this red trail. They used to have this in hockey. I mean, this is like 50 years ago. They'd show the jet stream of the puck. I don't think they do that now, but you think they're showing a bigger puck right now? to go into the net?
Well, I think they can. I think they can. I mean, it's,
Well, I know they
got
can.
that
I don't know
yellow
that they're
line
doing
on the.
it.
They got that yellow line on the football field. Well, why wouldn't
Right.
they if they want people to watch?
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the problem with hockey on television. You can't see anything. It just looks like people
Oh, right.
skating around
Well,
and getting in fights.
I thought I was the only one who couldn't see anything. Speaking of yellow lines in football, did you see that the NFL is going to go to electronic monitoring instead of the chain gang for first downs? I mean, that happened because of what launched Kansas City into the championship game instead of Buffalo, and then we had a lousy Super Bowl. But can you imagine? But they're going to use the chain gang as backup, as backup to
The electronics
to the electronics. And is there anything worse, more humiliating than being part of the backup chain gang? I mean, I'd rather be on a prisoner chain gang than be the backup chain gang.
Well, the union, the union contract, they got to keep those guys on there for some reason. But it's kind of the reverse of the asking for an instant replay call, right? It's
well, I mean, you already have it there. You already have it there. I mean, these guys
but that's if the ref, you think the refs are wrong, you can look at it on the TV screen and then decide again. So, but this is the opposite. If the electronics is wrong, then you go to the old fashioned, which is interesting.
Right? No, these guys should go into a support group with the Maytag repairman. Maybe maybe the crew can be used as limbo officials at bar mitzvahs and such. They're totally superfluous. Yeah,
well, they got a lot of money from the NFL for some of those Kansas City calls. So,
oh my goodness! All right, Tim, what do you got? What have you got? Do we need to promote some appearance that you're going to have, or?
Nah, I got absolutely nothing going on this weekend.
You're not driving the Wienermobile part time like I see it.
I'm driving the Wienermobile every single night, Bruce. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Hey, good for you. Good for you that you're doing that in your dotage. I appreciate it. So now I'm going to feel bad about Freddie Gray again. Should I apologize again to the Washington Post? Maybe I should write an op-ed and apologize for.
I don't know. You might actually, be able to get some good press. Is who remembers Freddie Gray? Make another Freddie Gray reference and see if anyone gets upset.
No, I'm going to let that one lie.
If we have a civil war, is it going to be the blue versus the Freddie Gray? Make a tweet like that and see what happens.
That's good. That's in good taste. See, that's why you're the professional, and I'm just doing this amateur one on the weekly wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.